Okay. Okay. How am I going to talk about this album? Um, well, I know it's a very highly anticipated album, and I was one of those individuals that was really looking forward to this. So, yeah, let's dive in. Pitfalls from Leprous. So, Leprous, I don't think they really need an introduction at this point, but I'm going to give one anyway. They are the progressive metal, kind of, I want to say darling at this point. These were the guys that I had mentioned in my starter pack for progressive metal, that this is where metal in the progressive rock scene was going to end up. These guys were blending a lot of really great techniques from the gentcore without completely embracing all the kind of stigmas that go along with that. They weren't quite as technical. They were much more atmospheric. They were much more about their emotive, but still had some really meaty and juicy guitar riffs. They also focused quite a bit on their vocals. This is within the lead vocalist of Ennar Solberg. I'm going to butcher all these pronunciations, by the way. And his vocal work is next to none. Like, his vocals might be one of my favorites within any band working right now. The way that he is able to just soar and hold an entire song just from an ah. This was kind of to the point where it almost became a meme within the progressive rock community. But I think it also needs to be said that the two backing vocalists, at least up to a certain point, of Tor and Orsten, again, butchering these pronunciations, they also provide the two dueling guitars. And what these two bring to the table are an amazing ability to blend their own vocal work with Ennar while also combating one another with their guitar works. And I think this provides such an amazing foundation and framework for the band overall. So I was really interested and excited about Pitfalls because I didn't know where they were going to go from here. I didn't know if they were going to continue this trend that they started with Melinda, or if they were going to try something new, because each album kind of they tried something new. And what we find is kind of a blending of the two. And I'm not a fan. I'm going to come right out at the beginning and say that I'm not a big fan of this album. And a lot of this, I've been doing a lot of kind of introspection to try to figure out why. What's not resonating with me? What's taking its time? Because this album is their most mellow. It is their most atmospheric. It is their most personal in that sense. The two backing vocalists are not seen, at least vocalizing. There's a lot more emphasis on strings because there's like a full string section with violins coming in. Yeah, there's a lot more emphasis on emotive and emotion. And in some ways that it works. You know, I do like a more somber album. But it needs to have kind of a point. It has to have a payoff. This album in some respects does. But I feel like this album doesn't actually get going until at the bottom, which is a shame because that's the 6th track. The tracks that we have leading up to that: Below, I Lost Hope, Observe the Train, All My Thrones, and Alleviate. These 5 tracks don't do a whole lot for me. There's not a whole lot of meat on this. There's not a lot of teeth. There's a lot of atmosphere. There's a lot of setting the groundwork, but there's not a whole lot of like actual riffing. There's not a whole lot of interplay between Ennar or Tor or Oisin. And I do have to kind of call out the bass and the drums. Bar Kolstend on drums. He's not my favorite. I feel like he's a good timekeeper, but in terms of that explosive sounds that we had from past discographies from their other drummers, he doesn't emulate them quite as much. And I do see that the band has had to transition, and all bands need to grow and evolve, but I'm not quite enjoying where they are right here. The drums don't really have that much of a personality. The bass line of Simon, I think it's Simon, yeah, Simon Daniel Brogan, because I can't run into any part of their names without tripping. The bass work is fine. You know, he's able to provide a great bottom for these tracks, but again, there's no real personality within it, especially within these first 5 tracks. I'm not feeling anything exciting, anything new. I'm just kind of here for the ride. Now, I will say that some of these songs within the beginning sections, Below, is very haunting. Below probably being the most haunting of these, and it does set the groundwork of what this album is going to become. But it is a little disinteresting for me. It is a little bit of a dragging its feet and not really getting going. I Lose Hope also reminds me of, I don't know, it's almost, again, I want to use the word generic. It's predictable as well, especially at this stage of Leprous's career. I can almost like pinpoint where this song is going to go, and anytime that I think that the song is going to develop into something really exciting, they kind of skirt around it and they just kind of end the track, because a lot of these tracks at the beginning are a little bit on the shorter side, and I think that might be the point. I do kind of like the haunting lullaby aspect of Observe the Train, but because it's coming in after two other very somber and very mellow tracks, it's lost in the shuffle. Same with By My Throne. And By My Throne at least has a little bit of a pick-me-up in comparison to the past three tracks, but I find the beat is odd. Like, it's very groovin'. It's almost like a dance beat, and it doesn't mesh well with the atmosphere that's coming around it. It's very strange in that sense. Like, I want to get up and go, but it's like the beat is encouraging us to like get up and move, where the music surrounding it is more of like, no, you need to mellow, you need to be more introspective. Alleviate is kind of fun. It picks up a little bit, but it is a little too short, and it really doesn't go anywhere. Like, I do kind of enjoy the build-up that it has throughout it, but I don't know, by the time we actually get to the payoff, even though it is so short, it doesn't feel all that exciting. So by this point, I'm already kind of checked out. I already have 1 foot out of the door. And so by the time we come into At the Bottom, I'm ready. I guess that's the best way to put it. Like, I am ready for something new. And even though At the Bottom does start off the same way that a lot of these other tracks do start off, I like where this song goes. And this is actually my favorite track off of the album. And it's interesting because even though it's my favorite track, I still have some issues with it. This is reminding me of what I want from Leprous. It's catchy, it's heavy, it's got a little bit of teeth to it. Not too much, but enough to keep me very interested. And when they go into that bridge moment with the strings, and it almost feels like a Haken interlude, especially with a few notes that go da 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 da. Like, that is a classic Haken movement. And so that is ushered us back into the main chorus work with a lot more energy, and when Anar comes back on into the vocal works, I'm jazzed, I'm ready, I'm excited, I love where the music is, it's pumping, it's bumping. But then the song ends, and this is my biggest gripe of the song, is that right when I'm ready for like round 2 of their kind of revisiting of the chorus work, they stop it. And I think this was a big mistake, because they had so much energy and momentum. They shouldn't have stopped it. They should have gone around one more time with a lot more energy, because we've almost deserved it at this point with so much mellow tracks that we've had before it. And then we come into Distant Bells, and Distant Bells it's a good track, it just takes too long to get going. It is the second longest track at 7.5 minutes, and 5 of those minutes are dedicated to this somber setup for the eventual play out. And as much as I love that idea, because I do love a great build-up, and this song does build up very, very well, it doesn't necessarily pay off, especially from all the tracks that came before it. Then we come into Foreigner, and Foreigner is a very heavy track. It's a very short track. This is kind of what I was hoping for the rest of the album. Like, I was hoping for that teeth. I was hoping for that meat. And then we come into the longest track, the final track of The Sky is Red. And this track is interesting. I do enjoy it, and I do love how powerful this track is. I do love how heavy and intense this track is. But I'm not quite sure about the play out. Like, I do love the haunting sounds that we have at the end of this track, and I do love kind of where this song is going, but it does feel kind of like a whomph at the end as opposed to a oomph. So yeah, this album was definitely a letdown for me. I'm not gonna lie, this album was definitely a letdown. I could see what they were trying to do, and they could have done this if they had shaved off probably about 3 or 4 tracks and kept this to about a 40-minute runtime. And if they really ended with a really big oomph, and this album is kind of flirting with that idea. I don't know if they quite stuck the landing within it, but I could definitely see their intent. If you are a big Leprous fan and you love what they were doing with Melinda, then you're definitely going to like this one, because they just kind of continue that on in a more somber note. But for me, Yeah, this one isn't really for me. It has enough that I'd want to listen to it, but not enough to come back to it. For me, this is a stream. You know, this is kind of edging the line between whether or not I would recommend it or not. And, you know, a stream is pretty much captured right in that kind of hazy no man's land, because there are some moments on this album that are still pretty good. So anyway, that's about it for Pitfalls from Leprous. What did you guys think? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Whatever you thought, let me know of your own comments by commenting down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.